Hi, this is Rod Faulkner, and you are listening to the 7thmatrix.com Eye on Sci-Fi podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 186 of the 7thmatrix.com Eye on Sci-Fi podcast, the podcast where we share with you terrific indie, science fiction, and fantasy, online short films, web series, and other closely related media. We also, on occasion, have conversations with the talented creators who are producing outstanding indie speculative work. Thank you for joining me. And in this episode, I am pleased to share with you our conversation with actor, director, writer, and producer Ben Myers. Ben joins me to talk about his latest project, the sci-fi time travel pilot, Zero Method. Zero Method is the story of Ethan Zero Locke, a man from the present who has been hurled into the distant future where he finds himself marooned. He can make excursions back into the past, but it is only temporary. And as Zero Method opens, we discover that Ethan is determined to permanently find a way to return to his point of origin in the past. Ben joins me to talk about the inspiration for Zero Method and also how he went about crafting the very specific rules and boundaries that govern time travel in his sci-fi pilot. It was a fascinating conversation. So, without further ado, please enjoy the Eye on Sci-Fi podcast conversation with director, actor, and producer Ben Myers as he talks about his sci-fi pilot, Zero Method. Ben Myers, welcome to Eye on Sci-Fi podcast. You are here to discuss your exciting project, the sci-fi pilot, Zero Method. For our listeners, please describe its premise.
Hey, Rod. Yeah, thanks for asking. Great to be on. Zero Method, it's a cyberpunk action mystery about time travel. It's set in a dystopian future where time travel has proliferated. There's lots of different methods of time travel, but no matter how you do it, there's this one prime rule that's always true. And that is if you go forward in time, you can stay as long as you want. But if you travel backwards in time, the farther back you go, the shorter the amount of time you can stay before you're automatically returned to the future. Now, our story focuses on Ethan Zero Locke, who's been accidentally sent 60 years in the future to the year 2081. And it's about his attempt to break that rule of time travel by discovering the mystery of the Zero Method that will allow him to go back and stay back, returning to his old life.
Ben, you not only star in Zero Method, but you wrote and produced it as well. Let me commend you for that because its world feels fully realized and the main characters have a real sense of shared history. Why was it important for you to have such world building be so prominent right at the very beginning of the story?
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate that question because I think that everybody's really responding to the world of Zero Method, this world that we built. Of course, we did that through the environments, the visuals, the costumes, the way people speak, though, too, the dialogue, just the way the characters act and respond. But when you're developing a pilot, this is the first glimpse into the world. You're setting up the story, you're introducing the characters, which are first and foremost important in a pilot, is to have great characters. But we're introducing a complex world with these different sci-fi rules. So I wanted to make sure that we communicated those to the audience in a way that was super clear, that they could understand, and they could sort of get their heads wrapped around this premise right away, and then we could just dive in for the ride. Because most of this pilot actually is this sort of mystery crime thriller. Zero is going off on a little time crime mission to try to get what he wants initially. So building this world, establishing this dystopian future visually, and also these side characters, the way the world affects them is so important because at the end of the day, this is just a drama amongst characters who are trying to get something and are struggling. And that's the essence of the drama. And at the end of the day, the world building becomes set dressing, but it is totally the thing that fans are going to love and hang on to because it's really a unique world and a unique take on this dystopian future. and they're going to see things having to do with time travel that they just haven't seen before.
An aspect of Zero Method that I really enjoyed is how time travel works in the story. A lot of sci fi stories involving time travel are confusing because either there are no set rules for how time travel works, or the rules are dense and confusing, which detracts from the story. However, the mechanism for time travel in your pilot has clearly defined rules and boundaries. How did you go about crafting the rules for time travel? What research did you do?
Yeah, totally. That was really actually at the forefront of my mind when I thought about this story. I didn't really want Zero Method to get lost in these sort of tricks and time loops that you see so much in stories about time travel. I really wanted it to focus on the push and pull between the characters and their emotional relationships. So I wanted to keep the rules very simple. And I also wanted to get the audience to try to think about time as a place. You go to these different places. And so by focusing on that stuff, we kind of like don't get mired in these rules. I mean, you can watch Back to the Future and then read an article about it these days and have it totally ruined for you. So by keeping things simple, it just helps the audience focus on the conflict between the characters. But also for me, I'm definitely a bit of a science nerd and a big sci-fi fan. I grew up on Star Trek: The Next Generation, so you're going to find references to tachyons and anti-tachyons in there. And I've always had an interest in cosmology and the rules of time, and so I just kind of pulled from the research that I've done throughout my life as I kind of just try to understand the universe that I'm in. And of course, time can be a very philosophical thing too. So I definitely reference a little Stephen Hawking in there, a little pseudoscience too. But basically, I wanted it to be something simple for the audience to grab a hold of, and also base it on, real up to the minute theories about how time travel might work.
Time travel in Zero Method does take a physical and mental toll on the traveler. Why was it important to you to depict that in the pilot?
Well, for me, there's really two reasons. One is that I wanted there to be this everyman quality to Ethan. His only real superpower is that he's willing to push himself to the max. He's really willing to throw himself into the gauntlet. And I love the idea of telling a story about a character whose superpower is their determination. That like if everybody just reached deep within them enough, they could withstand this. For me personally, playing this character, I just love the idea of throwing as many physical challenges in it as possible. He's running in the past, racing against time. There's this great set piece sequence. It's like a 4-minute fight we've got. It's really killer. So I think like physicalizing his effort to move through time was super important. And also, there was this idea of nostalgia and addiction to nostalgia. So I wanted to depict these physical trials that he goes through. But part of the time travel, he has to inject himself in preparation. So I thought, kind of making that analogy to like a junkie who's addicted to the past, the nostalgia of the past, and addicted to traveling through time in an attempt to trying to reach something that is really ultimately a dead end, maybe. So I thought just these driving home, this physical quality to the show, where it's just like this visceral, immersive, physical experience in contrast with these kind of more heady sci-fi ideas and like mystery and subterfuge was really appealing to me.
Zero Method is a pilot. So, how far out have you plotted Ethan's journey?
So when you do a pilot, it's really important to have a Bible of the whole series. You want to plant these seeds, but you definitely need to know where you're going, and we know where we're going. Ideally, Zero Method is a limited series experience. So you do want to have this really strong conclusion. And of course, the major question is what is the Zero Method and is it going to work? And we know what that is. And I don't want to give too much away here, but I'll just say that we kind of get into some metaphysical and existential questions about the nature of time. And especially, it's true that this wouldn't be such an issue if Zero was just good with staying where he was, just sort of accepting his journey as it unfolds. but we have the series plotted out for all the way through the first season for sure, which would be another 7 or 8 episodes or so. And it would conclude in a second season. So we're just really hoping we get the opportunity to tell that story. And that's why I'm currently looking to pitch it around to production companies and networks.
Ben, how can our listeners support Zero Method and where can they go to find out more about you?
Sure. Yeah. You can definitely find me at Benjamin Lawrence Myers on Instagram. And of course, I've got info on my site, benjaminlawrencemyers.com. That's BenjaminLawrenceMyers.com. And yeah, if you want to check out Zero Method, we're going to be dropping a few clips. We've been doing the festival circuit for now, really just getting it out there and getting feedback and stuff, getting some great awards actually, and some great acceptances. But also, yeah, if you want to check out the pilot, I think there might be an opportunity in the future where we're releasing it on Instagram. So definitely follow it at Zero Method TV. We'll be releasing some tidbits there, and you can keep track of what's going on with the show. It's really a fan thing for us. I mean, I've been really loving discovering our audience. So all the support we need as we build that fan base, it's super helpful. So if you're curious about it, at Zero Method TV, keep following the journey.
Ben, thank you again for being a guest on Eye on Sci-Fi. I really enjoyed having you on. I will include links in the show notes to where our listeners can learn more about Zero Method and keep tabs on you. And I wish you all the best with Zero Method.
Yeah, Rod, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Ion Sci-Fi is great. And I also just want to take a second and shout out my producing partner on the pilot, Nicholas Richter. He was also the DP, good long-term friend of mine. It was a really incredible collaboration with him. And also the editor on the project, Rachel Pearl, and our associate producer, Travis Youssef. We had a really great team of actors and cinematic artists that came on board, and it wouldn't have been the same without them. And I'm truly grateful for everyone who was involved and helped bring this vision to life. And I'm so excited to see what unfolds next with Zero Method's future. Thanks again, man.
And there you have it, the Eye on Sci-Fi podcast conversation with Ben Myers, the creator of the new sci-fi pilot, Zero Method. Links to where you can find out more about Zero Method and about Ben will be included in the show notes of this episode. Just visit your local podcast aggregator or visit the7thmatrix.com where you will be taken directly to the show notes of this episode. While you're visiting the Seventh Matrix, I encourage you to explore all of the other terrific indie science fiction and fantasy, web series, short films, and other closely related media that we have curated on the site. I also need to ask you to visit our support section because without support from kind and generous listeners like you, we would not be able to keep the lights on here at Ion Sci-Fi and over at the Seventh Matrix, and we appreciate that. Make sure to leave us a review and rating wherever you get your podcasts, because that does help others find us, and we appreciate that a great deal as well. Okay, that's it for this episode, everyone, and until the Seventh Matrix portal reopens, stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, take a break, escape the mundane, and enter the fantastic. Take care.